Welcome to On the Table with Ashley, a podcast where I explore ways in which we can lead more fulfilling lives and amplify human connection by increasing our curiosity and communicating with less judgment and more respect. It's my pleasure to welcome Ann Martin and Emily Schum Terry to On the Table with Ashley today. Sisters Ann Martin and Chris Hanneman founded Get Organized in 2017. Emily Schum Terry married into the family and partnered with Ann and Chris in 2020. Chris left the business in 2022 to focus on her work as an artist. Since then, Ann and Emily have been helping Park City families get organized. Rooted in the belief that clear space equals clear mind, Get Organized has grown into a fully fledged lifestyle organizing business. Ann and Emily work closely with their clients to evaluate, simplify, and develop sustainable organizing solutions. The end result is gratification of seeing their clients transition from feeling overwhelmed to overjoyed. Their services range from designing custom home organization systems, decluttering, preparing homes to be sold, and managing moves. Their goal is to transform chaotic environments into functional and efficient havens that promote productivity and well-being. As a client, I can attest to the amazing feeling at the end of the Get Organized process. The process itself does take effort, mostly emotional effort, and is highly rewarding. We will dig into all of this in this episode. Ann received her BA in psychology from the University of Colorado Boulder and worked in sales at Nike and merchandising at Levi Strauss & Co. and Land's End before joining Get Organized. Emily received her BA in physical anthropology from UC Berkeley and a master's of forensic science prior to working for various law enforcement agencies in California as a crime scene and death investigator for almost 15 years. Emily joined Get Organized in 2018 after moving with her family to Park City. This is my first interview with two people. I'm so excited. Welcome, Ann and Emily.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You can find Ann and Emily at getorganizedpc.com, and their emails are emily@getorganizedpc.com and Ann, ANN, at getorganizedpc.com, and on Instagram and Facebook at getorganizedpc. So I always like to start hearing a little bit about your childhood and what kind of kid you were. So if you could each share a little bit, that would be amazing.
Sure. You start. Okay. Well, I grew up in Southern California, 2 blocks from the ocean in the 70s and 80s. So my childhood was incredible. We were just running free little wild beach grommets and just having the best time. So I loved my childhood. I was a very organized child from the get-go. It's funny because I shared a room with my sister, Chris Hanneman, who I started the business with until she went into high school, and she was a hot mess. So I would get so mad at her because I wanted everything like in a certain way, and she would like throw her clothes all over the room. So I set up, we had this little blue and white gingham bench, and I'd set it under the window. And I would say, okay, if you're going to throw your clothes, throw it on this bench. And once your clothes reach to the bottom of the windowsill, you have to put everything away.
Amazing.
And she's 7 years older than I am. So, it's not like we were super close in age.
I was going to actually guess that you were older. That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's in the genes.
It's in the genes. So she's since grown out of that messiness, obviously, and is a very organized person. But I came out this way for better or worse.
That's so funny. So before you share, I just wanted to share a story it just made me think about. So one of my closest friends when I was growing up, her name was Bri Kyle, and it's now Bri Tobin. And I would spend the night at her house, and she would have a sheet of paper, and it would say, wake up, 7 a.m., brush hair, 7:05 a.m.,
Oh my God.
brush teeth, 7:10 a.m. She was so organized from a young age. It's stuck in my head. Yes.
That is so funny.
I think it sounds like a kindred spirit.
Yeah, I think she might be. We might need to connect for sure.
I grew up all over the country. I was a military brat. My dad was a naval aviator, and I think he instilled a lot of organization in me, more discipline, being on time, things like that. My mom too. My mom kept a very clean house, but I think for me, I was very good with time management skills and a schedule and things like that. I don't remember so much about my room if it was super organized or not. I don't think I ever kept a lot of stuff, and every time we moved, it was like we got rid of things. Right. So, but I was very organized as far as my schedule, time management. I was good at school and an athlete, and I had to budget my time well to get things done. Yeah. So I think that just was instilled in me at a young age, but I don't really remember things like if I organized things well as a kid, but I had a great childhood growing up.
So do you have siblings?
I have one younger brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many times did you move?
Oh gosh. I honestly would have to count. Probably from birth to high school was about 10 times maybe.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I was born in California. Most of my family's lived in California. My adult life I spent in California, school, everything. But from birth to the end of high school, all over. I'd have to count.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it was good. We lived in a lot of awesome places because he was in the Navy. We were usually on the coast.
Yeah.
Hawaii, Washington State.
Nice.
Virginia Beach, San Diego. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fascinating. Okay. So, I can see how the education in psychology and sales could contribute to success in this business. And in a strange way, I can see how forensic investigations could give you skills for this. But can you each talk a little bit about how your prior work influenced what you do now? And then maybe you can talk a little bit about what led you to starting Get Organized.
Absolutely. So I initially started my apparel career with Levi Strauss in merchandising. And as a merchandiser, you're kind of the nucleus of the go-to-market process. So you have to be very organized in making sure, design is getting you the designs on time, that you have the costing is on point, and that distribution is happening. And in the same time, you're also putting together assortments. So making sure, you have the highs and lows in different shirts, patterns and solids and all that type of thing. So, and that also translated a lot into when I was in sales. So we'd have to, bring all of the apparel with us into our customers, put up assortments for them, and just be really organized in how presentations on the floor would be. So initially that really helped me with closets, because I can walk into a closet and I can see it all. It almost it flashes in front of me and I can see how everything needs to be assorted and done in your closet. And I've actually never done one of your closets yet. So I'm super excited to do that for you sometime.
Me too.
She's the closet queen.
I love closets, and the hotter the mess, the better. I just can't swoon when I go into a messy closet. It makes me so excited to get it organized. And even prior to my professional career, when I was in high school, my first jobs were with Gap. So you learned with that folding
I had
board.
that same job.
You did? So the folding boards. So
yes.
You have to know how to fold. And then after that, I went to Nordstrom. So I see it when I walk into a closet. And then that's also translated into, pantries and garages and other things where you just you have to have that visual on point. So that is really what's helped me with that. And then the psychology aspect definitely helps, because there is a lot of emotion when we're helping people to declutter, and or if we're helping people through transitions. In their life.
We'll definitely talk more about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect as well. And after my husband and I had our kiddo, I decided that I didn't want to work the hours in the apparel business.
Right.
So I just kind of worked part-time jobs here and there. And I was working as a preschool teacher at the time and was having some health issues. And my doctor said, you know what, you can't work in the Petri dish anymore.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out what was going to happen next. And my sister and I had a friend who was going through a divorce and moving into a new home in Colorado. So we got in the car, we went and helped her, and we set up her whole home in a weekend. And she was so happy and so relieved. And she just said, "You guys should do this as a business." And I was like, "Seriously? Is that a thing?" And then we started doing research, and lo and behold, it was. And here we are.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Emily, what about you?
So I worked in forensic investigations for almost 15 years in LA and Northern California, Southern and Northern California, and thought that was going to be my lifelong career. I loved it. And then when we had our first kid, a lot changed, as it often does for especially moms. My perspective changed a lot. And again, like Anne was mentioning, long hours. I was on call at least a third of my life and missing a lot of holidays and important events. And just realizing that as much as I loved what I didn't know how sustainable it would be forever. And then we had this move to Park City from California, which kind of changed everything. So I stayed at home and then saw Anne and Chris start their brilliant business. And then I was pregnant with my second when we moved to Park City. So stayed at home for a little while, which was great. I was lucky I got to make that choice and be there for his whole first year and a little bit longer. But I was not meant to be a stay-at-home mom. I just needed something a little more. And they kind of invited me to start working jobs with them. And I thought, this is crazy because it has nothing to do with what I did before. But they kind of convinced me, you could do this. Come work clients with us. Would you like to do it? They trusted me in the homes with people. They knew me. So that's how it started. And then a couple years later, when Chris was kind of slowing down her work and working more as an artist, they asked if I wanted a partner. And although, back to your question, although it's totally different than crime scene investigation, there are some very odd parallels. And I kind of jokingly talk about these with people, but it's true. My entire career, I've spent going into strangers' homes and looking at their things and trying to figure out patterns or what's in place, what's out of place, just for totally different reasons. So I'm used to going into other people's homes. Crime scene investigation, you had to be very organized. If you're not, you lose a trial. Right. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So,
and I assume you could lose evidence too.
Lose evidence. Everything has to be documented or very organized. In certain ways, yes, it's totally different than going into somebody's home, but for organizing a closet or something. But realistically, we had to be very organized in what we did in documentation and keeping track of things and figuring out a puzzle, basically. Yeah. And it almost is like figuring out a puzzle, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of parallels, and people, I think, get really anxious about having us in their homes sometimes. And I always joke, whether they know or not, what I used to do for a living, that unless you have a dead body in your closet, we're good. Like we're good. I'm all good with this. I've been in way more hoarder homes and crime scene situations than I have in organizing. So,
well, can you, I know it's a slightly off topic, but can you just talk a little bit about how you got into that field?
Sure. I went to Berkeley, like Carlos, I know,
and
your
me.
husband. Oh, that's right.
Go Bears.
Go Bears. And I should actually back up. When I was in high school in Southern California, my last years of high school, I was in Thousand Oaks. And I started there as a junior. It was the last move we had when my dad retired and from the Navy. And there was an advanced anatomy course senior year at that high school. And our brilliant teacher, Mrs. Bowman, who just retired, she would get medical schools to donate 4 bodies that were for science, for medicine, and had a whole high school program that was like a college program. I mean, harder than any anatomy course I took at Berkeley. Go head to toe, outside to inside, the entire body. We had small groups. You had to apply to be in the class. I made my parents buy a home. I begged them to buy a home within that school's, it was a public school. So you could go. Within that school's boundaries so I could apply and go. And I didn't even know if I'd get in. But I got in. She had several speakers throughout the year, crime scene investigators, coroner investigators. And when the coroner investigator came and spoke, I was so enamored. That's not the right word. But I just thought it was so fascinating. And this was before CSI or any TV show. Yeah. Those shows didn't come out until I was well into college. And I just thought it was amazing. When I went to Berkeley, I ended up studying a lot of human osteology with a famous anthropologist that was at Berkeley, and kind of furthered my interest in that arena. And then,
So was it the study of the human body, or was it the like solving the mystery?
I think I was really fascinated with anatomy and biology and the human
Okay.
body. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. When
Okay.
I went to college, I was planning to be a doctor. And I kind of then found this forensics offshoot that was becoming a career all of a sudden. It wasn't a big thing before O.J. Simpson, really.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I kind of found this offshoot that I was so fascinated by, and it kind of went from there. But yeah, and then I did a master's degree when I was working in LA, and was interning at Santa Monica Police Department, trying to get into the forensics unit just to get my hands-on experience, and ended up working in Southern California for several years in crime scene investigation. So.
Do you think that if you hadn't wanted to spend more time with your kids and hadn't moved, do you think you would have stayed in that field?
I probably would have stayed. I would have looked for a more lab-oriented job versus a field job, which I had done both. Mostly, all my whole career was mostly field. But there was a year I worked for a federal agency where I did a lab. I was doing a contract for a lab with the ATF, and just doing firearms, explosives, fingerprints, stuff like that in the lab. And it was great. And as a mom, I probably would have loved the regular hours, but I hated it when I didn't have kids. I was bored.
Yeah.
I like to be out in the field.
Yeah.
But if we were in Southern California, I probably would still be in forensics, to be honest. But moving here, totally different life. The quality of life here is great. I love it. I looked into going back a little bit, but it was, there's no lateral move. Like I would be going down, and just different pay in Utah also wasn't making it worth it to go back.
Right. Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you talked about how the skills translate, both of you, and it makes so much sense. And then you combine your skills together, and it's like magic.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think a lot of people probably don't really understand what you do. They might think like, oh, they'll help me organize my house, or they'll help me prepare to move. But to me, that doesn't really do justice to what you guys do. So can you talk a little bit about the way that clients use your services and how you define success for your clients? And you could maybe give a couple of situations, because I know you work in different situations. And I'm happy to talk about my experience too.
Okay. Well, for example, we go into a project, and prior to starting the job, we have a consultation, so we understand the scope of the job with our client. And then that also gives Emily and I an opportunity to discuss it prior to going in. So we have somewhat of a template in mind before proceeding. And we do have, like I said, templates in what we do. However, we cater what we do to every client, depending on their needs and or the interest level on how much they want to be a part of what we're doing. So a big part of what we do is helping people declutter, and that's the biggest thing, and that's also the hardest thing for most
people. That is the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, and in that instance, we remove everything from wherever we're decluttering. So if it's a pantry, a kitchen, mudroom, closet, you name it, we go in, remove everything. We categorize it by type. And then if the client is willing to declutter and get rid of things, at that point, we bring the client in, because it really helps them to see everything they have. And oftentimes, and this isn't a bad thing, it's just how it is, you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had 8 can openers. I was looking for a can opener, and so then we're able to declutter and then make it so that their space it's easier for them to find things. So we determine new homes for things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we like to label everything, even if the clients end up taking the labels off after, which is fine. It just helps to train mom, dad, kids, or whoever it is in the house that every time the can opener gets put away, it can go in the same place. So, yep. So we set up systems, and again, it's different for every person. Not everybody wants bins or labels, although we encourage them, or, so we just kind of feel out the customer, or we use the product that they already have in place. So if they don't want to, spend money on the product, etc.
Yeah.
So did I leave anything out?
No, I think it is important, like Anne was saying, to note that we really try to tailor our projects to every client, because everybody's different. Everybody lives differently. Different people live in each home. Some things that work for some people don't work for other people. So although there's these overriding kind of tips and tricks that we might have, or things we normally go to, we really try to make it function well for that family. And I think a lot of people think organizing is just about making things look pretty. But really, we're big on the function. Function is the most important thing. And yes, we want things to be beautiful, but it needs to be functional too. It can't just be a Pinterest picture that looks good in it, but it doesn't actually work at all for your family.
Yeah. So you guys helped me before a move and then move into my new house. And so I would say a couple of things. One is on the decluttering side, what you did with us, which I don't know if you do this with every client, but I thought was very helpful, was you came and you did the consultation, and then we had time to work on the decluttering ourselves before you came back. So for me, the garage was the hardest part because I had stored keepsakes and letters and all of these things that are emotional things, not things that I ever use, honestly, but I have an emotional tie to. So I think I spent like weeks in the garage, literally going through like every letter. Rereading things like, do I want to keep it? Do I not want to keep it? The kids' artwork. I mean, you name it. And it was a lovely and hard experience because I was going back in time. Right. I was reliving things. This September will be 10 years since my father died. I had letters from my father. And friendships that not that I had forgotten about, but that, we had written letters to each other, which I didn't remember. I sent some of my friends that I've been friends with forever, like pictures of things, and they're like, how do you still have these things? And I kept a lot of it, but I went through it. So I slimmed it down, I would say. And then you guys helped me also when you came back to say, okay, keep or,
donate.
So and maybe you can talk about that, because I think like the pantry is a little different than those like emotional things. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the process with your clients, or give a couple of examples where maybe some people need you to be there the entire time, or maybe some people can kind of do what I did, where I did a lot of the work and then you helped me get to the end.
Right. So we do help people a lot when they're downsizing. We have a lovely couple who they had lived in the same house 25, 30 years, and they were moving out of state to be closer to family for health reasons. And we worked on and off with them for months, going through every corner of their home. And we were so honored to be a part of that, because we really got to know who they were as people.
Right.
And she needed us there every step of the way, because she wanted to tell the story about it. And then she also needed to know that it was okay to let it go.
So this is where your psychology degree really comes in handy.
Yes. And a lot of times people they need to be heard.
Yeah.
And I know Emily and I both feel just beyond honored to be a part of that process for people. But then it's such a joyous moment, even though it can be so hard at first to be like, okay, it's okay to let this go. So for example, if you have your grandma's china, right? And it's taking up space and you don't want to move it again.
And you're not using it.
And you're not using it ever. So we tell people, we'll pick out just a few pieces that maybe you can use, as like nut, as a nut bowl when you have friends over,
Yeah.
or as a
Or the
jewelry
creamer
bowl,
or something,
yeah,
the sugar.
a few special pieces that would feel special to you, and then you'll actually use them.
Yeah.
But then how wonderful to pass them along to somebody who will
Yeah.
actually use them.
Yeah.
So it's hard with keepsakes. It's hard when people are going through transitions in their lives. And by no means do we make people give things away.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So we encourage where we can tell there's a little bit of movement. But if it's a hard stop, we just bin it, we label it, and it's fine to hold on to those things.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to declutter.
No.
And when we say declutter, not just pull it out and organize it, but get rid of things.
Right.
Some people do. That's number one on their list. And some people, we already know going in, that's not happening.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of organizing things in the space and not decluttering. We encourage decluttering, especially if you're overflowing out of your space or you're feeling this overwhelming sense of anxiety about stuff, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
The best thing, the number one thing you can do to organize is to declutter and get rid of things.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling guilty because it's a keepsake, that's one thing. If you're feeling guilty because of waste, there's so many opportunities to re-gift, donate, pass down, sell, even if you need to make money. There's ways to do that. But declutter, by starting with decluttering, that's like the number one thing. If you want to get organized, start with decluttering.
And similar to you, Ashley, if people know that we're coming, it can sometimes light the fire of, okay, these girls are coming. Let's try to prep as much as we can.
Yeah.
And or knowing that we're sitting there and we are charging an hourly rate.
Yes, I think it helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
It
because
does.
You're being held accountable. And we're happy to sit there all day and help you with decisions, but we also don't want to waste people's time or their money. So it can sometimes be a really slow process, but then all of a sudden people really start picking up and understanding, like, okay, I actually can do this. It is okay.
Yeah.
It's like, peeling off the Band-Aid or whatever it is, it's like sometimes just taking that first step is all you need. And then you realize, wait, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. So I'm planning a couple of episodes in September to honor my father on the 10-year anniversary of his death, on death and dying. And it's actually interesting. So I'm having, one of the conversations I'm going to have is with a palliative care doctor. And he sent me a paper, and there's a quote, and I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but it's something like, every fear we have is our fear of death. And I actually think, like, the one thing that you left out is that, and I think I experienced this myself, is like, I was literally holding on to like all of my college notebooks, all of my law school books, even, from when I was younger. And I think that there's something about it that's like, if I let this stuff go, I'm acknowledging that I'm getting closer to death. And it was such a cathartic experience for me overall. And we'll get to like the clothes in the pantry, because that was actually just as cathartic for me and my husband. And I want to talk about that too. But I really, really think that it is hard work to sift through the things that represent our life and let go of them, because it is acknowledging the time has passed and we are getting closer to death.
Yes.
And I think, like, as a broader topic, like, we just need to talk about that so much more, because like with the work you are doing, we will have more peace when we actually work through the hard things. So for me, working through it was really hard. The garage particularly, again, because it was all of these personal things. And I felt so good afterwards. And I didn't get rid of everything. So we did box up and label, keepsakes for my children, for myself, for my husband. But I went through this process of letting go of a lot of things. And that process is a really important process. And I would recommend everybody do it, and having your help makes it easier. So I just wanted to like make this point. You don't have to be moving to hire you.
No, absolutely not.
And everybody should hire you.
I think it's interesting because to your point about death, I see it maybe because of my previous career in a different way. All these things that people are holding on to, what the heck's going to happen to them after you die?
Right.
Somebody else has to deal with them.
Right. We're going to talk about that too.
Yeah. So we'll save that for
Yeah.
later. But that's something I think about. And it's not the keepsakes necessarily, like all the really important things to you. You shouldn't have to get rid of those. And those are things maybe your family will cherish.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other stuff that people hold on to, whether it's keepsakes or clothes or trinkets or whatever that, that people don't use. And it's just cluttering their space. And that's somebody's going to be responsible for that.
Well, let's just dig into that right now. So I had this question. So there's this Swedish word, which for the practice of getting rid of your possessions as you age. And I'm going to completely mispronounce this, but it's called dastenning. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this term and you know how to pronounce it. Okay.
But I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here.
So the term translates to death cleaning in English and refers to the process of decluttering your home to ease the burden. It's exactly what you're talking about, to ease the burden on loved ones after somebody passes. So, my original question was like, is that an actual service? Like this couple you were talking about, it wasn't necessarily, they weren't thinking this way, but I bet that it had a huge impact for that.
Part of the decision making is when she was struggling with something initially, I said, what she would say, I don't know what I want to do with this. And I'd say, okay, we'd ask the questions, do you use it? Is it something that your children want? And go through that process. And she said, no, I don't. My children don't want it. I've already asked them this. And I said, okay, so eventually what is going to happen with this item then? And so it was touching on that in a sensitive way. And I mean, there's articles about the greatest gift you can give to your children is not leaving them with a bunch of stuff that they don't want. Have those conversations with them. What is important to you? What would you like? What would you, what can I keep that you would like to have? And then, it's not an easy conversation.
No.
And give them time to think about it, but come together and make that decision.
Yeah.
So that when the time comes and you are going through that incredibly hard time, you don't have in the back of your mind this pile of stuff or storage rooms of stuff that you then have to deal with.
Which is a huge emotional toll, especially
emotional
after you lose somebody.
Yes. And there's a lot of guilt, I think, associated with that, getting rid of things like this bad, nasty thing.
Right.
Because maybe whoever your loved one was that passed away, maybe they loved it.
Right.
And so it's that balance of keeping things that are meaningful to you and your family for your loved ones, or and then also letting things go.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard. It is hard, and it's different for every person. I think a lot of people appreciate having a third party come in that has no attachment to items. And it's easier for us to ask them certain questions and put that emotion aside. It doesn't mean we're going to make them get rid of anything, but I think they like that little bit of, it's okay to let things go.
Yeah.
Those are just objects. What's important to you, maybe certain objects are really important. And if they're not, then you have memories associated with other things. I mean, it's very individual.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people want that permission to let things go.
Absolutely. It's the permission that most people are looking for.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of the less emotional things like the pantry and the closet, because I was actually, I think, surprised how much peace that brought me too. Like I knew it was going to be hard to go through the keepsakes, but I also knew it was going to be fruitful. But to me, what was fascinating about like the closet and the pantry was two things. One is, like let's take the closet. And my husband, I remember, was like, he didn't want to do it at first. Yeah. And then he was so happy that he did it. So for example, my husband used to wear a suit and a tie every day before we moved to Park City. And now he maybe does that once a year. Right. So he had all of these suits and all of these ties, and you both really helped him slim it down to
such a good job.
He did an excellent job.
Yes.
He did an excellent job. And I don't think he realized like how good that would feel.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing for me. And I think for me, it's a little bit different. It's like, oh, that's going to fit again someday.
Yeah.
Or that'll come back in style someday.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And or something that you really loved that you want to, hold on to, which maybe can go in a keepsake bin,
Right. Absolutely.
So getting rid of it gets it out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to speak to that.
But
yeah.
It's funny. We've never had an instance where people have regretted, or at least that they've let us know that they've gotten rid of something.
That's a good point.
And if we're going through like mudrooms or closets and it's a multi-day project, they'll even say, I don't even remember what I got rid of.
Yeah.
There's something about, and I understand in part because we have to be prepared for so many different types of weather situations, but so we have a lot of outerwear and a lot of gear, but there's a point in which you just don't need that much.
Right.
And so, they just don't remember, or passing down. We do have a rule that if you're not sure and you're really not ready to get rid of it, put it in a bin and label it. And if you haven't thought about it or missed it, and you can either have 6 months to a year, and if you haven't thought about it or missed it, then it's time to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Or the hanger idea.
And I've heard this from other organizers, and it's a good idea as far as a closet. If you have your hangers all hanging one way, and you wear something, turn the hanger around when you hang the item back up, turn it around so it shows that you've worn it, or you can start with them all hanging one way and turn them around. And then after, make sure you know your start date, like write it down somewhere. And after 6 months to a year, usually here it's good to do a year because you get through all the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
See how many of those hangers are turned or not, and then really evaluate, am I going to wear that or not?
Right.
Because a year is a long time to hold on to something. Yeah. It's not a bad idea,
this is
right?
Great.
But that's one way to keep track of closet items that you're using or not using. I think for me, when you're saying like pantries and closets, it was so cathartic for you. I think it's because you use that space every day.
Yeah, for sure.
So it literally has an effect on your life every day. Especially, and I hate to stereotype moms and dads, but moms, like we're usually the ones stocking the pantry, usually doing the cooking, usually buying the clothes for our kids. So, and us, and even, helping to keep everything up. I think that having those everyday spaces organized, and they don't have to be perfect all the time. It's never going to be perfect all the time.
Right.
But having them organized to be a space that you come into and you feel like, I can breathe in here and I can find things and I have a system in place. It's huge on your everyday affect. Because if you're having a crappy day and you come in and everything is out of place and all over, that's just make it worse.
Completely. And the kitchen, I think it's interesting because still my husband will use something, he'll clean it. Where does this go? And I'm like, well, obviously this is where it goes, but I am using it more.
Right. Yeah.
But things like you guys did an amazing job with my spices, so I can see every single spice and put it right back. And just the little bins and the way that you organize the things that I'm using, I know where to put them back.
Right.
So one question, I think this is probably that I'm typical, but once you come and organize, let's say a pantry and a kitchen, do you find or do you hear that your clients are able to stick with that organization? Like, do you ever go back and kind of check up on your clients?
Ding dong, surprise! We're here. No,
it's like extreme home makeover.
Have you kept it organized?
I think it would be so fun to do, but could you imagine? I would never. Yeah, we do refreshes for people.
Okay.
Because people have very busy lives.
Yeah.
And pantries, for the most part, they do work. We do sometimes have clients that say, oh, you know what? I ended up using this bin more for something. Could you just drop off a new label? Because we're going to use this for something different, which is great. And that's the thing. Like, we want people to obviously use what we've set up.
Yeah.
But the caveat is, if it's not working for you, we can either come in and adjust. We can drop off new labels for the clips or whatever it is. but that happens very infrequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most
You
people
know?
say they're able to maintain the system.
Yes.
Like Anne said, some people will hire us to do a refresh
Yeah.
quarterly or seasonally, but that usually has to do with turning over your spring and summer clothes to fall and winter here. Like if people
Okay.
don't have space
Yeah.
for everything to be out in certain places,
Right.
or seasonally, like doing a seasonal update or refresh,
Switch
switch
Yeah.
out. Yeah, swapping out seasonal items. And some homes we do a little refresh, but pantries are more rare. I think people are able to keep up with them, or
Because
like,
they're used.
yes.
Yeah.
And we want people to, if like Anne said, if there's a better system for them with labels or something else, let us know. You know,
Yeah.
we're happy to go back and make adjustments. But for the most part, we hear people just really, once we set it up, they're able to maintain the system, which
Yeah.
they like.
Yeah.
So, and that's our goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the amount of time and then money it saves people in the long
Yeah.
run too, because you're not always looking for something, nor are you buying multiple items of the same thing.
Especially
because-
pantries.
Yes, because you know where to find it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need more chicken stock because you have,
Yeah.
you know, 18
You can
of
see
them
it.
right there.
And-
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is making sure that everything is visual.
Yeah.
We find that helps a lot. And that's a good point in like why we try to keep things decluttered, because if something's cluttered, then you don't have it, you know, visually it's not clear as to what you need or
Yeah.
don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And overall, that reduces cost and waste if you're using what you actually have.
Right.
And not, you know, overbuying, like Anne said, or forgetting what you have and then it expires,
Right.
Yeah.
especially in a pantry.
Yeah.
And same thing with clothes.
Yep.
You can see what you have in a closet, you know, or a mudroom, winter gear. My kids need 2 more pairs of gloves. Nope, they don't. They have all of them.
Right.
So
Yeah. 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 So we've talked a little bit about this, and so you may feel like, and you can just tell me if you feel like you've already answered this, but why do you think most of us fail to achieve what your services help us to achieve on our own? Is it that without the impetus of a move or some external force or paying for it, that it's too much emotional work to sift through the objects and clothing and keepsakes? Is it that we already have like levels of denial about how our lives and bodies change over time and trouble making peace with that? Is it that we think we don't understand the peace it could actually bring us to do the work and like live in a more organized state? What do you think?
all of the above.
Yeah. And there's so many other more fun things to do than to
Yeah.
sit down and organize. And I think people feel overwhelmed, right? If you take everything out of your closet, like what we like to do, and I know we didn't do that with you because you were moving, but then let's say if you're having
But for the next move, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna do it.
I think we did yours in sections, if I remember.
Yeah.
But
Well,
right?
we brought,
Yeah.
yeah. Ashley held everything out,
Yeah.
but I like to take it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people, you cross that boundary where you're in decision fatigue, right? And you're like, I can't deal with this. And then, oh my gosh, I have all this stuff that's out of my closet. And now I need to go pick up the kids. I mean, it just, you can get overwhelmed very
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
In addition to all of the things that you mentioned.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest thing I think keeps people from doing it is, one, it's another thing on your list
Mm-hmm.
of all the things.
Yeah.
And then 2, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you start, like a lot of people are good at starting it and then don't quite finish it. Cause it's almost like, it is like a renovation. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Cause you really, in order to do a really effective job on a space that has a lot of stuff, you do need to pull everything out,
Yeah.
categorize, go through, take the time to declutter, then set up the space and put it back. So it's kind of a multi-step process. And if you've got, especially if you've got little kids at home or you're working, whatever it is in life, it's just another thing to do. And it takes a while to set those systems up well. And I think sometimes people get ahead of themselves and they buy all the fun product and want it to work, and it doesn't work because they didn't first go in and organize the space or measure. So it can be very easy to get frustrated quickly.
Yeah.
We always, tell people to start small if they're going to do it on their own, because it's just tackling a
Like
bigger
do a
space
drawer.
takes time. Yeah, it's true.
Yes.
A drawer, a shelf, your purse, your
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Like little tackle the little
Yes.
everyday things and get those victories under your belt before you move on, because it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and I also think, like you were saying, and like you just see a space and you know what to do, and we don't all have that skill.
Right.
So I think that's another part, is there's the overwhelm and all of the emotional things. And then there's like, I don't even know what to, like, I wouldn't even know what
Where
to do.
start.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of the puzzle, it's easy for us because we're not attached to
Right.
anybody's stuff. We just see it as what it is.
Yeah.
And there's no other meaning to those items to us.
And it's so easy when you live in your space, you see it every day, to get stuck thinking, this is what goes here, this is what goes here. And we come in with these all new perspectives of the space and like, oh, wouldn't it be great if this was here? And people are like, I never thought of that, because you're just kind of stuck. It's the same thing I'm the same way at my own house. It's hard for me to step outside and think what else would work better.
Have you guys organized each other's houses?
Not each other's. We do our own.
We do our own. Yeah. Yeah.
But not each other's. Now she doesn't need help.
No, and I don't think you do either, but no. I mean, I've redone my house. It's funny. I've done other people's kitchens and then like, oh wait, that would actually work better than mine. And then adjusted how I do.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I just did my own closet after years of telling her this is my Achilles heel. And it's not that my closet was a disaster. I knew where everything was. I don't have a lot. I've pared down significantly since moving from California because I don't dress up that often here. Like, this is it. But we had to recarpet our primary bedroom, the office, and the closet, and I took that opportunity finally to pull everything out. But it took me years, and I know how to do it. Like I could look at my clothes like, this would be great, this would be great. I just never did it, and I finally did it. So,
and how did you feel?
I feel great. It's so pretty. But it's just one of those things. It's not, and for me, like I said, I wasn't even that messy. I had, I knew where things were, but it made a huge difference just implementing a few things that I'd been wanting, like certain bins with labels, or even slimline hangers, make it, matching hangers. Huge difference. I finally did all the things I've been telling people to do.
Yes. Well done.
Yes.
Congratulations.
It's hard. It's really hard to do your own space. So much harder.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. What mindset or attitude does a client need to come into the process with to be successful?
Well, I think an open mind, first of all, and just be okay that things are going to get worse before they get better, and that things are going to change. You have to be okay with things changing.
Yeah. Now, do you find, people have reached out to you, so is that an indication that they have an open mind, or sometimes do you find they actually don't have an open mind, even though they've taken the step to reach out?
Very rarely they don't have an open mind.
Okay.
Usually by the time, by the time they've reached out to us, I think they're at the point where they're like, okay, I'm ready to do this, or I have a specific project in mind. And then I think hopefully what we tend to find is once we do our consult, I think that sometimes alleviates a lot of people's like nervousness about people coming into their home, and people are always apologetic about their messy space. And we're like, this is why we're here. And we wouldn't have a business if you weren't the normal. This is normal.
Right.
And it's not just about mess. It might just be too much stuff, like I just have too much stuff. I have kids and I've accumulated all this stuff, and I need help getting out of it. But, I think by the time people reach out, they're open to us coming in their home. I can only think of maybe one or two clients where we got there and the plan changed drastically because they were not ready.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
And it is okay.
We've had people that have referred friends, and I don't know why they haven't reached out. And I said, you have to be ready. And that is absolutely okay.
Yeah.
We are here when they are, if and when they are.
Yeah.
But the other big thing I think is that people need to let go of shame, is because they feel like we're coming in and we're going to judge them. And it's back to the hotter the mess, the bigger the success, right? cannot.
This is a new motto.
new
The
tagline.
hotter
She
the
said it
mess,
other
the
day. I was
bigger
like,
the
look
success.
Look at you with the rhymes.
Should put that on your website.
I know. We should.
But I get so excited when I see a big giant mess.
Yeah.
Because I know that person is struggling, they're stressed. Not that I'm excited that they're feeling
Right,
that way,
right,
but
right,
I know
right.
that we can bring them relief.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
make a huge difference in
Yeah.
that case. Yeah.
So I don't look at it as a bad thing. I think it's just such big opportunity. So
Yeah.
And I think too, people again, like think they're, they want things to look perfect for other people.
yeah.
And you've talked about this on previous episodes about
Yes.
not having people over sometimes because their house is not perfect and
Mhm.
getting over that. I get nervous about that because I am the organizer. And so then having my friends over, I'm like, oh my gosh, my
Yeah.
house is not always perfect. I have all these systems set up that I love and I can put things back quickly.
Yeah.
My kids help. It's great. But I don't expect my house to be perfect all the time.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to get over that when you have people coming over.
Definitely.
And I think people though get nervous about this perfection, but it's not about perfection. It's
Yeah.
about making your daily life easier and having your space be a space you want to be, because it's not a disaster all the time. you
Yeah.
know? And when it does become a disaster because life happens, it can be reset quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I think those are great takeaways for people. Well, you already shared one lovely story, but can you share a success story of a client who transformed their life through your services?
Do you want to take this one?
I'm trying. Yes. I remember we talked about this a little bit too, because we had different clients in mind, and now I'm like blanking on. Well, the ones that Anne spoke about were ones that were huge for us because we spent, like she said, it was over about 3 months, not every day, not even every other day, just maybe like 3 to 6 hours a week, even just going in and helping them declutter for this huge move. And that was very meaningful to us because we learned a lot about their family and we've kept in touch with them.
Yeah.
So that was great. And that was preparing for a move.
Yeah.
There's other families I can think of that, especially like working moms or single working moms who are just need help getting stuff set up or reset even in their home so that they can maintain it. They can have their kids help maintain it. That have made a huge difference where it was just like this big reset of the house for them and setting up certain products in place. So certain things had homes that people could find things, and it just made their life a lot easier. I mean, we've had that kind of client where you, like Anne said, where things are a hot mess and you come in and set something up and you can see the difference. We've heard from them afterwards what a difference. They've told their friends and neighbors what a difference we've made. That's great. That feels good.
Yeah.
And even then, we have, especially in Park City, like a lot of high-end clients who we might go in and set a vacation home up or even help them move. We helped a family move that wasn't even here when they moved. And she cried afterwards and was like, you have no idea what a difference this made for me and what a weight off it was to have your team come in and help us move, because it wasn't necessarily in the plans at that point. And, they were going to be gone.
Scheduled,
And so just, I think reducing stress for people is a big win for us.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of what we do.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. It's really fun. And we like helping all kinds of people, but I think the ones that pull our heartstrings the most are the ones that are struggling, just trying to keep their head above water and really overwhelmed in life. It makes you feel so great. And especially when you see them out and about afterwards and, they have just this sense of relief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it's a really special moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have any favorite either low cost or DIY processes or solutions that people can do at home who may not be able to afford a professional, or if they're not sure yet, they're not yet convinced? So maybe it's like starting with a drawer or like, a small project. I mean, I just recently did my purse again and it's like, it does feel really good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to wait until it gets to the windowsill.
That
That's okay. But you know that the windowsill,
Yeah.
then we gotta, we
Yeah.
gotta back things up and take care of business. Yeah. I mean, I think like Emily said, one drawer
Yeah.
at a time, because you don't want to dive in and become overwhelmed, because that just shuts the whole thing down.
Yeah.
So yes, I think one drawer at a time, one space at a time. If you have young kids, like even just going through and either, if you want to save their smaller clothes, if you're having more children or whatever, just to remove that out of the mix and bin it and put it in your garage or somewhere that you have room to store, just so that you have less in your home, I think is a really big thing. Or even just gathering keepsakes and binning those and getting those out of the regular mix of your day can really help ease the burden of a home.
Yeah.
I think also Instagram, going to Instagram, there's a lot of great people out there that break things down as far as processes, and also give visual inspiration that can kind of help you think, oh, wait, that's kind of a similar setup to my pantry or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, if I do that, I can, maybe mine can look similar to that.
And I think the other thing is that people may not have realized is they could hire you just to do a room. Like you don't have to come organize the entire house.
Yeah.
So they could even start small with like a smaller project to sort of see how it changes their lives.
Yep. We did a laundry room this year in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Including assembling a hanging laundry unit, and this is a specific space, but we take on teeny tiny projects too.
Yeah.
We tell, it could be a bathroom, one room, one closet. We do whole house. I think on a lot of our advertisements, they say one space or the whole place.
Okay.
So, that we do big and small projects alike. And we don't want to leave people out just because they don't want to do a whole house.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had consultations where the job is so, they wouldn't have to do much. So we just tell them, I would do this is, and Emily's great. She's always like, I'll just send you a link and go ahead and buy it and have whoever it is, install it for you. And this is what you do. And so, I mean, we have even told people that too, like, you really don't need this.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
just direct you. And I have had a client before that we did her closet and she needed help with the pantry. So I actually emailed her, this is what you do. This is the process. I'm happy to come do it.
Yeah.
Give it a try yourself.
Usually we can feel people out and see if it's if there's a budget issue or if there's a time constraint and they just really want to spend their money on one place. And we can be very honest about what we can get done in what amount of time, depending on their particular space, because not every laundry room is going to be 3 hours.
Right.
Yes.
Then we will tell them, just like Ann said, we can kind of walk them through the process. We're happy to send links for products. We give clients the option of us doing the shopping, or if they want to do the shopping, just to try to save a little money on time, but we're very open and flexible like that. So we try to work with them to make it accessible to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Do you ascribe to any particular methods or models, like I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, KonMari method, or minimalism, or, trends seem to like come and go. So I don't know what you think about that, but I was kind of interested.
Well, we use KonMari in the respect that I agree to take everything out of a space and categorize it in order to really properly assess what you have. Other than that, we just kind of pick and choose bits and pieces from other organizers or other, ideas or trends that come through. Personally, in my life, I am more of a minimalist, but I also don't have that expectation for everybody around me.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to feel bad about, the amount of things they have. I just choose not to have a lot because it makes my headspace clearer, right? So that would really be the only thing that we subscribe
Do you think
to.
the trends are like all the same, different ways of saying the same thing or getting to the same bottom line? Or why do they become so, like, you see them everywhere?
I think a lot of the trends, in my opinion, a lot of the trends in organizing have to do with products.
Oh,
Like what works, or, you know, the latest, greatest product.
Okay.
Some of them are gimmicks, I think, and some of them are awesome. But that's more of the marketing, I think, behind organizing is driving the product, because product brings in money to companies or to organizers even.
Right.
We don't push product on people at all. I know some companies sell packages of like products and things. That's not our thing. We kind of want to tailor it to whatever our clients want.
Right.
But I think the trends to me tend to be with products.
Okay.
I think what's brilliant about products is going back to Instagram or social media, looking at all these different organizing companies, whether they're small or big, how they use the products. They don't always use them the way they're marketed. They come up with a brilliant idea of using a divider or a turntable or for something completely different than it was marketed for, and it actually works better.
Okay.
I think that's something that professional organizers bring to the table, is their knowledge of product.
Yeah.
And what will really work in a space and what just looks pretty and doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
Or what the pros and cons are of different types of products, different surfaces or different textures of things, what they work well with, what they don't, what might pull on your clothes if you have it in a closet, versus what's going to have crumbs everywhere in a pantry, you know, things like that.
Yeah. Well, my spice rack, I think, is a great example of that, because I had bought at the Container Store like racks that were like graduated, and it was terrible. I could never find what I wanted. I could never keep it organized. And then your method, everything is lying flat.
Yeah.
It's got this kind of like rubbery surface, so it doesn't move around. And that works for that space I had. And you would do something different in a different space.
Right.
But it was like game changing. And I tried to find the right product, but I couldn't, you know?
Right. I think knowledge of the product is it's a big plus of having somebody come in and do your space. And I've had friends tell me that you guys are worth your body weight in product, because going into the Container Store is one of the most overwhelming experiences of somebody's life if they've never been in there before. Right. And also not just that, Target, Amazon, Crate and Barrel, everybody's trying to keep up with the organizing space of like all the bins and baskets, and you know, we're pretty good at knowing sizing of things and what will work and what won't, just because we've used so much of it over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's a big plus of having somebody come to your space, is product knowledge.
Yeah.
Back to the trends. I know, you know, for a while, remember the tiny house thing, and then, you know,
yes,
minimalism. And then minimalism kind of came along, and they were kind of side by side. And I think that's great, but like long term, I'd love to do like some follow up, and are those people still in the tiny houses, and are they, you know what I mean? So I think
not post COVID, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We try to stay kind of in the middle, but then throw in bits and pieces of when, like Emily said, when new product comes through that's really interesting and extraordinary, then we kind of will adopt those. But I think just kind of remaining flexible and somewhere in the middle tends to work pretty well.
Yeah.
What's interesting with the KonMari method, so Marie Kondo kind of started a big movement of getting rid of things, right? And then, you know, if it doesn't spark joy, let it go.
Yeah.
Which is actually it's great.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know if anybody saw this. I think we talked about this. Maybe a year ago, she came out, you know, now she's got kids, or 3 kids, I think. I'm not sure. She came out with this big article about how her home is no longer organized because she's let it all go. But really, I disagree with that. Her home was probably very organized to begin with and had all these systems set up, so it's easy to put things back in place. But she's now saying, I've just kind of am not striving for perfection. And I think that's a great message.
It is, yeah.
But I'm confident that she already has those systems set in place. That things can be put back versus I just let it all go, you know?
Yeah.
Because she was really like this kind of a founder of the whole movement to, you know, get rid of, you know, minimalize and get rid of things and do that. And when you have kids, it definitely changes things.
You need a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to bet she's still got all of the processes in place to get it back together. Yeah.
Well, I think we have different seasons in our lives.
Yes.
And then we have different personalities. So like you like minimalism. I wouldn't say I'm a maximalist, but I'm not a minimalist.
Right.
And so I think you just also work with your clients and like,
Yes.
what is it that they want?
Yes.
And that's going to sort of give them that peace.
Absolutely.
And that will be
100%.
different for different
It's
people.
different for everybody.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
How has the field of professional organizing evolved since you started the business?
Well, it's interesting. So COVID has been a game changer because when everybody was staying home on lockdown, it really forced people to stop and look at their homes and how they're functioning.
Yeah.
And I think that with a combination of the Home Edits Get Organized show that launched on Netflix also during COVID, that put home organizing on a national platform, and people could really see.
Yeah, and they started the business in 2017, and that was 2020, 3 years later. So a lot changed that year.
Yeah. But I feel like the combination of those two things really launched it and has made home organizing more mainstream.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because we weren't sure what was going to happen, and when COVID started, because people didn't want us in their homes, and we didn't want to be in people's homes. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
we're very fortunate that it affected us in a positive
way.
Yeah, I partnered with them literally months before COVID.
Yeah.
And then it happened and we're like, oh, well, that was a good run. and then the opposite happened. Like Ann said, people were forced to stay home. But not only that, even when we kind of all got back out in the world, so many people work from home now.
Yeah.
Way more than they used to.
Yeah.
And starting in the summer towards the fall of 2020, we started getting more and more calls and it just kind of blew up after that, really.
Yeah.
And I do think COVID had a big impact on that. Yes. And the home edit girls out of Nashville.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, there's a show called Get Organized.
Okay.
With the home edit.
Okay.
And I'll never forget when it came out on Netflix. It was like March of 2020 or right in the spring of 2020. And one of my friends texted me and was like, are you guys going to sue them? Because they're using your name? And I was like, no, I'm going to write them a thank you card. Like that, but it was also Get Organized with the home edit.
Right,
so
right,
there was
right.
No
yeah.
But I think that changed because they became very mainstream, very popular. Their show has 2 seasons. And
I'm behind the times.
Yeah,
I think
they're adorable.
Yeah, and they're adorable.
So
and
fun to watch.
Okay.
You've seen their product at the Container Store. They have product lines, everything.
Okay.
But I think that made their show, they work with celebrities and then they work with very regular people. So it made it more mainstream. Like Ann said, like this is actually something that could help me get set up in my own home or my office.
So what do you guys see? Like, do you see a role for AI or technology in the space? Have you thought about that?
Can't take over our jobs.
Yeah.
No, you can't replace what you guys do. Yeah. I mean, there's no way. And I think, there's a lot of, I listen to a lot of podcasts about AI, and I think a lot of people feel like there are so many things AI will never be able to replace, but it might be able to help.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally haven't thought that much about how AI can help because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole thing. But I think to your point, what AI won't be able to replace is that personal connection and helping people work through.
But they won't even know the depth of a drawer or a shelf or like, I don't think, maybe if it's like a new build and you have all of the specifications and you could put that in.
Maybe. Yes.
But for most houses, I don't, I think it could more maybe conceptualize, like even like you could help clients visualize, like we could do something like this, or we could do something like this, or, but
that would be a good question for Emily because I still keep a paper calendar with a pencil. So I'm trying to transition to my phone. So AI is like, whew.
One thing, only honestly, if you could just like say what you want your reel on Instagram to look like, and then it creates it for you. That'd be great. But
amazing.
No, I haven't thought that much about it either.
I think there's a huge market. You should come up with some software.
There you go. There you go.
It's funny because my husband's company, they're big into AI and software and data
Well,
technology.
you guys should chat
So
about
should
that.
talk
I think
about
that you guys could really make something
Yeah.
cool.
But I
Yeah.
do think, just in linking this, because it's like Ann said, the personal connection. I think one reason our business does really well in Park City is because Park City is still a small city vibe. Even though it's
Yes.
grown, we live here. Most of the people that work for us live here. And we are very connected to the community. We all have
Yeah.
kids in the community.
Mhm.
People know us and trust us. And I think that's letting somebody into your personal space.
Yes.
You need to have that trust. You need to have
Yeah.
either a friend refer you, or you've heard about us from your realtor
Yeah.
or something. And I think that our company, we work really hard to have a good relationship with our clients and to have good reviews from our clients, because it is a small town. And so I think that's one reason people
Yes.
welcome us in, and our business has flourished here, because we are local in the community, and we've worked hard to stay that way.
I think you're right. Having inviting somebody in your home to change it
Mm-hmm.
Right.
does require some level of trust, and like you have to go in thinking like these people are not going to judge me, or hopefully they're not going to judge me.
Right.
So
and we've seen it all. So
Yeah.
when people try to
Sure.
like explain, like, oh, don't,
Mm-hmm.
we're like, we've seen everything.
Yeah.
Like we've yet to, it'll have to be the dead body in the closet that'll show
That'd
me.
be even worse than that.
Yeah.
It has to have been there for a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah, that's true.
It's fine.
It could be fresh and it would
Good
shock
with it.
me.
Yeah. Hide your blood spatter.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
I think that there is a personal connection, and we all live in Park City, and I think people like that. And the other thing is, it can be hard to get a service to show up in Park City
Mhm.
if they're coming from the Valley or somewhere else. I've had that experience, at least. My husband and I have had that at our house, and we are communicative.
Yes. You're organized.
Responsive. We're organized, but I think that's important to us, to have a business that actually shows up for its clients.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We talked a little bit about this, but do you believe that our possessions play a role in shaping our identity? If so, how? And maybe a corollary is, do you have thoughts about how we can develop a healthier relationship with our possessions? And I think that's partially what you guys are trying to do. Whether it's like your juice squeezer or bigger things,
As Ann said, I do think it's very person dependent. I think some people place more value on certain things than other people, whether it's emotional, whether it's because they really like certain brands or they grew up a certain way. It's very different from person to person. I think your items can definitely shape your identity if you let them. I think it kind of has to do with how much you let it shape your identity. I don't know. And certain items are going to be more important to some people than other people. I think a lot of it has to do with where that item came from and what it is, or what it has, a meaning that it has from your childhood, even.
Yeah.
Even if it's not something handed down, but a memory that it evokes.
So, and I have 5 questions I ask everyone, and we're going to get to that shortly, but it sounds like your experience sort of across the board has been that when people let things go, when people let possessions go, they actually universally feel peace.
Yes. And freer.
Yes. Like Ann said, I have never heard somebody say, I wish I had not gotten rid of that. Now, maybe they're not coming back and telling us, but time and time again, we have clients tell us after the fact, this feels so good. I feel so much better, that, I feel less stress, less clutter, clear space, clear mind, which is our motto.
Yeah. And I think part of that, and we'll get into my object question, is that we don't have to possess an object from our lives to have the memory of the object.
That's true.
So we still have the memories, even if we don't have the thing, So it's really about only holding on to the things that are useful to us in our everyday life, or we can't let go of for whatever that reason is, and trying to keep that to the smaller, the better. There's a wonderful book called Fewer Better Things. I'm going to forget the author, but I'll put it in the show notes. And it's that ethos, fewer better things.
Yeah, I think one thing for me, as I get older and as I've now done this with Ann for several years, I think I really do think about quality over quantity.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And also just as a mom who's buying things for her kids
Totally
and
agree.
wants healthier things
Yeah.
or better made things for
Yeah.
her kids. I don't want 10 things. I want 3 really well made
Yes,
things.
totally agree.
And when I look at my own closet or my own house, you repeat it. Everybody does this. You repeatedly go back to those same things, even if you have all of the things.
Right.
And
So true.
it takes some time, I think, to go through things and get rid of them. But it's the quality over quantity is a big thing now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of big companies and corporations are starting to turn that way too, which is great.
Yeah.
More sustainable.
Yeah.
Less buying less things. You don't need less or more things if you have the right things.
Yeah, agreed. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to share with our listeners?
I don't think so.
No, I think we've covered a lot.
We have. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, we touched on don't be ashamed to have us in your house. It's literally, it is so normal to have spaces in your home that drive you crazy and that maybe you can't tackle on your own and you just want that little bit of help.
Yeah.
No shame in asking for that help.
Remind people again where they can find you.
So our website is getorganizedpc.com.
Okay.
We take inquiries from our website, also Instagram at getorganizedpc. They can message us on there. Our email addresses are all on our website, phone number, everything to contact us.
Okay. So I generally talk, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about the products that I've gifted to you. Yes. And you guys are my first duo in the podcast studio, which is so exciting. And we walked the warehouse before. So you each, I think, have chosen things you want to take home with you, not to add to the clutter.
No, they'll be useful.
They'll be useful things. So Emily, I think you're going to take home our cutting board, which is handmade in Indiana. It's a high quality red oak. It should last for years.
Beautiful.
Just have to take care of it. So that means whenever you wash it, dry it.
Okay.
And then we have actually a finishing oil that's free of metal and accelerants, which a lot of them are not. But you want to use an oil, and then our oil is kind of thicker, so you have to let it sit out. But I use mine, almost every day.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's beautiful for a charcuterie board too.
It looks amazing for serving.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited. I do like to entertain.
And Anne, you chose our smoke kimchi collaboration tumblers, crystal tumblers that are hand blown in the Czech Republic and are dishwasher safe, which for me is a big thing because I have all these beautiful things for my wedding. In fact, when we do the move, we'll have to really think about my wedding things that I don't use because I can't put them in the dishwasher.
Right.
But these you can.
I'm so excited.
So I look forward to seeing your summer drinks.
Yes, it'll be Margarita Monday tonight.
That sounds amazing. I want a picture.
What time?
Yes, absolutely. I will send you a photo.
And I always like to end every episode with the same 5 questions. So the first one is, as we explore in my brand, Amatand, objects can hold a lot of meaning for us, and they can tie us to the past, enable us to enjoy the present, and even take us into the future. And you two know more about this than most people because I feel like your business is in this area. So can you each share an object from your life, whether you still have it or not? As we talked about, you don't have to have the object of the memory that holds meaning for you, and share why.
Go ahead. Okay. This is a tricky one because I actually have quite a few things, but I have a crazy quilt that my mom gifted me. It used to be the tree skirt for our Christmas trees, and crazy quilts were popular in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there was an international fair, I believe in Philadelphia, and at the time a lot of women and their clothing makers would go and pick out like fine silks and velvets and such, and learn new stitching techniques to have their wardrobes made. And so the crazy quilts are all the scraps left over
That's
from
so
the apparel. And so these women would get together and stitch together these quilts that have all the different materials and then the latest, greatest stitching patterns of that time frame. And so I have one that my mom gave me that was started in 1897 and finished in 1901. And the dates are actually stitched on the quilt. And it's huge. It's probably, 6+ feet wide and almost 7 feet tall. And I have it framed in a wall in my home. And I love it. And every time I go and I look at it, I see a new stitch or a new fabrication or something like presents itself in there. And I just feel so incredibly honored that I have that piece of history and just how intricate and interesting it is.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love
and
it.
so I will never get rid of that. That will never be decluttered from my home.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I want to come see it.
Anytime. It's a really special piece.
That sounds amazing. And it reminds me, so when my father died, there had been this woman in San Francisco, we lived in San Francisco at the time, who had made baby blankets. And my stepmom and I asked if she could make blankets from my dad's clothing for all of us.
Wow.
So the kids and the grandkids each have a blanket. It's not as big, but we each have a blanket. And we took all of these different pieces of my dad's clothing, from ties to the Madras shirt he wore all the time, to, things that like you see it and you remember him.
Yeah.
And we made these amazing blankets for everybody in the family.
That gives me chills, Ashley.
Yeah.
That is such
a great
an
idea.
amazing idea. That
Yeah.
is, wow.
It's kind of like, what
it is,
you have, but
yours is really,
Yeah.
I love that idea.
It's really special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Emily?
So my mom's family is from Iran, and I've never been there. My mom's barely been back since they came over in the 1960s. And so the few things that I have from my grandma and my great grandma that my mom has given to me from Iran are my favorites. I have one in particular that's this little vase. It almost looks like a perfume vase, but it's a little decanter even. Okay. It's green and it's got roses painted on it, and it's even got like a little chip in it. But I used to see it sit in my grandma's house every time we went, and I just remember it being on this bar area in her house every time we'd visit her. And I remember my mom telling me how much I loved it many, many, many years ago. I just loved it. And she pulled it aside for me years ago and gave it to me when my grandma was passing. My grandma was passing away. My parents were taking care of her, and it's not worth a lot. I doubt it's worth anything. It's so special to me because I remember it from my childhood. And there's a few items like that my mom has given to me that were either hers, but were probably my grandma's before, my great grandma's, that have been gifted to me. And I think they're so meaningful because they've been handed down from generation to generation, but also because they're from a place that I've never been, that my family's from, and I probably won't ever go, to be honest, just because of safety reasons. So I love those items, but that one in particular, it's sitting on my little bar in my house next to our decanter of whiskey.
I love it.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can you each share a favorite tradition with us? Could be something that you did as a kid, something you do with your families, anything at all.
Well, since moving to Park City, and my sister lives here in town as well. So when we moved here, our kiddo was 4 years old. And every year, the day after Thanksgiving, we go down to the garden store in Salt Lake, which if you haven't been there.
Have not been.
Warden Child.
Yeah, Warden Child, the garden store.
Okay.
The day after Christmas. It is the most incredibly beautiful store, and their ornaments are just exquisite.
I
so
can't
we
wait.
go there every year and pick out an ornament, and then also to Modern Display to pick out an ornament. And then we typically...
Day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, is that
you
what
said
I said?
Christmas?
Oh my gosh.
Day after
so
Thanksgiving.
The day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That's what we do to prepare for the Christmas season.
Okay.
My sister, my kiddo, and I, the three of us go down there and do that. And then it's especially special when my mom is in town.
Yeah.
And then we can do that together. And then we also go and see the windows at the Grand America.
So many things I have to do.
It's
Does
really
this mean
fun.
that you have an eclectic Christmas tree?
I do, very much so.
We have the same thing.
Yes.
I love it.
I do
Yeah.
too.
So you put your new ornaments on every year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a lot of ornaments. You must have quite a lot.
It is. Because every year there's some that go as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's part of the decluttering.
Yeah.
Mine is just growing so far.
Yes.
It's just growing.
No, if someone comes in, someone has to go.
Got it.
So
There are rules.
There are rules. But it's really sweet because even this past year, and our kiddo who's 15, or who was 15 at the time,
Yeah.
my sister called and said, "Do you still want to do this?" And he's absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So yeah,
Hopefully
that's my favorite.
forevermore.
I hope so. Yeah.
Great tradition.
We have a couple, actually there's a couple traditions, and the two that I love, and actually your family introduced me to one of them. Her sister every year hosts, she would host like a cousin. So
Okay.
her older sister is my husband's aunt.
Okay.
So by marriage, like, her sister married into my husband's family, and then I married into his family. Like, so anyway, we're kind of removed, but we are like,
We're family.
Family.
and her kid is like my kid's cousin, basically.
Okay.
And her sister hosts a gingerbread building before Christmas every year for the kids.
Mhm.
So first it started with her own children, Chris's children, who are grown and gone now. But if they're
Mhm.
home, they'll participate.
Okay.
And then her son and my sons will do gingerbread building together.
Okay.
So
Does she make the gingerbread?
no,
Okay.
she'll buy the houses,
Okay.
but then she brings candy galore.
Okay. To
And,
decorate.
like,
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they'd sit around and do that. So that's one. And the other one is also my husband's grandmother would make coffee cake. We have coffee cake every Christmas morning when we're opening
I love
gifts.
those traditions.
And I make the coffee cakes now, but it's a really big tradition in his family, and I kind of adopted it because it was so important to him. And I think your sister does the same
My
because it's
sister
the same
does,
family.
yes.
Her sister does it for her husband.
Is it like a special recipe?
It is. It's a family recipe. I learned it takes like 2 days to make because the dough has to rise. I'm not a baker. I like to cook, don't like to bake, but I do this every year. And my husband,
Wow.
it's really meaningful to him.
Yeah.
And my kids now love it. And so it's this fun tradition. It's one of my favorites, but both of them are wrapped in with her family actually.
Right.
So,
And my sister makes one for our family, so I don't have
So you don't have to do it?
She has a coffee cake too. Yeah.
My friend Libby, one of my closest friends, she is also not a baker, but she makes homemade cinnamon rolls for Christmas
Oh,
every year that
wow.
take like 2 days
Yes.
to make. And I've had them and they're
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's not a difficult recipe. It's just the time.
The time.
And in Park City, her sister had to figure out the rising
Oh, right.
ingredients.
Yeah, with the
when
elevation.
So when I moved here, she had Anne came to my house and I was there and Chris was there and Chris was teaching us. And she has tweaked all of the.
She's got it all.
Yeah, so I didn't have to figure it out. So
You should send out the recipe for your holiday gifts if you ever do that for your clients.
That's a good idea.
I don't know.
That's
I
a
don't know
really
if my
good
in-laws
idea.
would like that.
It's a secret
It's a
recipe?
family. No, I'm
Okay,
sure
okay.
it'd be fine. But it's fun. We've done that. I've done that with my husband's family for over 20 years.
I love it.
So yeah.
Wonderful. Are you both at a phase in your life when you enjoy entertaining in your homes? Why or why not?
I like to entertain, but it needs to be small. I used to like to throw large parties, and I'm at a small, intimate dinner party phase.
In
my
your
life.
season. That's your
Yeah,
season.
that's my season. The reason for the season. Yes.
And do you do dinners or more like appetizers or dessert
We
or?
typically do dinners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And dessert.
I want to get back to that. I used to do dinner parties too. And I think they're so wonderful.
I do too.
And I had a really interesting conversation with a woman named Susan Turnbull who does something called ethical wills, which is basically just like intentional communications to leave to loved ones.
Mhm.
And she was talking about her dinner parties, and she tries to have like a question, which I've done. There's another book called The Art of Gathering that's wonderful. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And she talks about that too. And especially for smaller dinner parties, I find that can work really, really nicely. So
yeah, that's wonderful. I'll have to pick that up. I would love to get that.
To try it, yeah.
It's at this season of my life, it's more important for me to have like really rich and deep conversations as opposed to.
And having these questions helps with that.
Yes.
Because it helps people get below sort of the surface.
Absolutely.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah, I want to get in there.
Yeah, get in there. Get in there. How about you?
I love to entertain. I think it's in my blood, being half Persian. But I will say the more we work, I think the less I entertain.
Yes.
But one thing I love, and I kind of have taken inspiration from Anne and her sister, is when we get together, we do more like a potluck style. Like, not always. I mean, whoever's hosting does the most work.
Right.
But for sure, it's like, what can we bring? Have people bring things. Don't feel like you have to do the whole thing yourself. And then also my close friends that I see regularly that our kids are the same ages and stuff. I think we're starting to get past I don't care that if my house is dirty or messy. But I think that has kept me for some years not doing that. And my house is fine. My house is fine, actually. Right. But getting over that perfection of like being the hosting to perfection, and just having a fun gathering. That's the stage I'm getting to now, where I want to be.
Good.
But I do love to entertain.
It's just about being together.
Yeah. That's really, that. And then in Emily's case, she makes delicious Persian meals. Oh my God.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's about being together.
And the food.
And eating Emily's food.
They make good food too, Jessica.
Amazing.
Brandy Alexander's.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've talked about a few resources, but do you have one or two top resources? They could be books or websites, courses, podcasts, anything that you would recommend. It could be related to organizing, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just like a favorite.
Right. The Instagram.
We talked about this because we were looking at your questions.
Yeah.
And I do love Instagram for the fact that for small business. And for the fact that people put so many awesome ideas out there.
Do you have any favorite pages?
Yes.
Okay.
So I actually narrowed down. I really love the Orderly Space.
The Orderly Space. Okay.
Yes. Jennifer Johnson. She's out of the Pacific Northwest, Seattle and Bellingham specifically. Okay. She has a huge following, and she really does a good job of giving tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. I love her as a resource. There's so many organizing sites. The Hoarderly Space is another one, I think. Or Hoarderly. Yeah.
Hoarderly.
Is that somebody who hoards?
No.
She doesn't.
Okay. No. I think it has combined with the last name even.
Oh, okay.
And then
I don't want that.
I know.
Trying not to do that.
Yeah. Don't do it.
And then Reorganize, Organize. Her name is Ria.
Okay.
She wrote a book recently actually about organizing with small children.
Okay.
When you have small children, things like that. But the reason I like, especially Reorganize and Orderly Space, is they're very realistic. Mm-hmm. They have a massive following. They share a lot about their families, which I don't think you always have to do, but I think it really then people identify with them.
Yeah. If it works for them, it might work for me.
Yeah. They're normal people.
Yeah.
They're not perfect and, but they have great solutions for things and they're willing to be vulnerable and share things that are maybe not perfect about their house or what they, so but Instagram is great for organizing. I think what you have to be careful about is not just looking at the pictures of perfection and, finding the ones who actually share good tips and tricks.
Absolutely.
And things like that.
Yeah, because those moments of perfection were created for the picture. It's
exactly.
not how life works.
Right. Well, isn't that the epitome of Instagram?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And Pinterest is my nemesis.
Yeah.
But for Jennifer's, isn't her handle on Instagram more her name and less her business?
Reorganize.
Oh, it's Reorganize.
It's Ria Safford is her name, but it's she has it's funny, her business has a site, but it's her personal site that has blown up.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And her business stuff is all on there too.
Yeah, of course.
But I like them because they're very real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those sound like great things to look at. I'm just going to call you, but
that's fine.
Last question. What do you do for yourself? Do you have a practice, a focus, a habit, or a daily routine that you adhere to that contributes to your success or well-being?
Yes, I walk Round Valley with my 2 dogs pretty much every day, and I work out all the world's problems and my own problems on those trails.
First thing in the morning?
In the summer, first thing in the morning. In the winter, later in the day.
Okay.
It's rare that I miss a day. And then also I do just yoga a few times a week, and that really helps to keep things grounded and flowing in my brain. So yeah, those are my must-haves.
I think she's better at that than I am. The daily, I don't have it. Coffee would be one.
That works.
Absolutely.
I have always had a hard time with balancing my personal time and work and everything else going on. But definitely I usually am up first in the morning, having a little bit of quiet time, which I like, or coffee, or at least up doing things just before my kids are up. And then I do like to do yoga, but I don't do it as often as she does. But that's good too.
There's no shame here.
I think the quiet time for me, having a time away where I don't have somebody calling me or
needing something.
Yes, all the time is really important for my brain. And
Yeah.
I'm a better mom and person if I have a little bit of quiet time built into my day.
Yeah.
So usually in the morning.
Well, thank you, Anne and Emily. Thank you so much for coming, for talking with us. I really hope what people take away is, one, that this is not just about organization. This is about peace and sort of relief and reducing stress. And also that you can start small. Like, people can call you and do one room or one space. They don't have to do this big, huge, expensive project. And then they can see what that means, see what they can do themselves with some of these tips you've given, or call you and expand it. But I really am such a fan of both of you individually and also your service. I really, really think it's an amazing service that many people, I think, don't truly understand the benefit of. So hopefully they've learned a lot today. I've learned a lot, and look forward to our next move together.
Yes. Thank you for having us, Ashley.
It was such a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to an episode of On the Table with Ashley. Subscribing to, rating, and reviewing our podcast helps us to continue to record great interviews. So please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're interested in learning more about the products we talked about on the show, visit amattendre.com. That's AMEATENDRE.com to check them out. When you become a member by sharing your email on our website, we'll share special discounts that relate to products discussed on each episode. Finally, email us at reachoutanytime@amattendre.com with thoughts you have or ideas for topics or guests for future episodes. Thanks for listening.